Daniel, are you all right? You having a moment there, or are you all right? Hello, good evening, and welcome to Monday Night Paranormal Live with myself and Jenny, Paul from Host for Ghosts, Angela from South Coast Ghosts, Daniel from Mythical Legends, and Chris, and Luke somewhere in the background. And our special guest tonight is RPG, all the way from lovely America. So if you have any questions for RPG, Daniel or Chris, or even Angela, Luke is there somewhere, but I don't know where.
Not you, Paul.
Send them in. No questions for me. I'm just here to watch. You told me that earlier. So if you have any questions for RPG, please send them in. Andrew will put them on the screen and we'll ask him. We're very privileged to have him for, we think, an hour. It might be a bit less if he has to rush off. So that's quite fine. And thank you, Daniel and Chris, for coming in on tonight. So, Ryan, welcome to Monday Night Paranormal Live with us. First time on here. Second time I've met you. We met you at the conference last year, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it was there.
Yeah.
So, quick question to you. So you started off in the paranormal world, did you?
Yeah, but not by choice. You know, when you grow up in New England and every single house is haunted, whether it is or it isn't, but everyone swears that they are, you know, and then all your aunts are scared to sleep in this one particular bedroom upstairs in the family farmhouse, which happens to be the bedroom that they put you to sleep in after telling you those stories. And so, you know, and then you're a dumb kid. So what do? You go watch Poltergeist. Don't watch it. It's going to scare you. It's not going to scare me. Yeah, it's going to scare you. It's not going to scare me. And then you watch it and you go, I'm scared. and we happen to have a doll in the bedroom too that had, remember when the doll grabbed him and suddenly the arms were 40 feet long? This doll's just standing there with its arms already stretched out, staring at me, you know, with those dead doll eyes. And so that's kind of how it started. And then at some point, I don't know, I got fed up with being scared, right? Like we all were. Like I couldn't do anything. I'm under the covers. And then so finally I just got up, I grabbed the doll and I went into the closet. And as far as I was concerned, I was going to hell like a bullet train. You know, they were going to eat my soul, tear my eyes out. And nothing happened. And then I started thinking, I'm like, wait, maybe Scooby-Doo is right. Maybe it's mostly in our head and it's probably some crazy white guy who's causing all this trouble. And guess what? I'm the crazy white guy. So that kind of got me into it. And then, you know, I was a military kid, so we moved and I was the lowest kid in the totem pole everywhere I went. So the first so many months you spend a lot of time alone and to impress kids, but also just to chase my fears because it's a hell of a rush. As you guys know, I would go into every haunted building, every haunted place and check it out. Right. And every time I go in, it would always be more nothing. But what a rush, right? You know, you come out. Yeah, and you're a little braver and a little stronger after that. Now, with that said, I may have had all sorts of ghostly experiences growing up, and I have no idea. You know, I was just pumped to be there. But yeah, that's kind of how it started. And then as a family, we would just go places, and we kind of got our kicks doing it. I got my brother into it, and yeah, one thing led to another, and here we are chatting about all things fun and strange.
And what sort of haunted locations have you done in America?
Well, not to go right to the A-list, but see this little vial right here? No, I'm not a weirdo. It's not my urine. This
That's good.
Yeah. This is from the Conjuring House well, where we actually went and we filmed a little something there called the Conjuring House Experiments. And come to find out, which I didn't know until I went there, but I don't know if it's the same in England as it is in America, but I guess we were kind of even more jerks than we were back in the day. But for those people that don't know, why is a well inside the house and not out in the yard where most wells should be? Well, come to find out, back in the day, if you had a very nice farm and I wanted it, well, guess what? I would just go poison your well, kill all your animals, kill your whole family, go bury them somewhere, and then move my family into your farm. And then when they came around to check whose farm is this, it was, oh, it's been our farm for a while. I don't know what happened. So you literally had to protect water, which, you know, it's a water planet. Water very well could be God. We could go on water for a long, long, long time. But point being, you had to protect your water. And what they told me is, you know, we were trying to figure out what experiments to do at the house. And the experiment I was going to do got shut down. And I was like, well, I'll go in the well. Let's do an Estes method in the well. Because I don't know about you guys, but for me, I think whatever's going on, it's like up in the sky and it's in the ground, right? We're kind of this like neutral middle ground. So if you can get into the earth, can you increase the power of the frequency or the connection? And that's what we did. And I won't ramble too much about it. You definitely check out the film if you want to see more. But I can tell you this: that's some of the coldest water I ever got in. And I practice for it. Like, I don't know about you guys, if you guys do any actual training to do paranormal stuff, cryptozoological stuff, whatnot, but I train. I want to be a little bit better than just throwing myself at it. So I do breathing exercise. I practice Wim Hof. I did all this, and I still got in the water, and your whole body you freeze out, right? And then we had this guy there who was he was either the assistant director, or anyway, he worked on the Conjuring House movie film. So he was curious to see what we were doing, because listen, I could keep going on. We did a CIA experiment called the World Gate that, was supposedly shut down, and then the pages reappeared, and we were some of the first people to try it. But anyway, so he's there, and he's like, do you want to know what I saw in that well? And I don't know about you guys, but when I go to a haunted location or anywhere, I don't want to know anything about it. I don't want any of that in my head, because I have a powerful imagination, and I will take off with it in all the craziest ways. So, I assumed he was going to say, oh, I saw this witch with a backward head and fangs, jump out at me. And then I'm already thinking that anyway, right? So I'm like, I don't need it. I go, no, tell me when it's over. He's like, are you sure? And if somebody gives you the not like, oh yeah, you sure you went, but like, are you sure? You should listen. So I was like, oh, okay. So I went and did it. We did it. It turned out fine. It was great. And if you see the film, we got some interesting answers, and I can go into Estes' method and all that in a sec. But when I got out, he goes, you want to know what I saw in there now? I was like, yeah. He's like, the largest snake I've seen in New England came out of that well when we were filming there last time. And I was like, that you can tell me, because then I might have not have done it. You know what I mean? Or it would have been really funny, the pre and pro. But yeah, man, the Conjuring House is amazing. And the only way I can describe it to you is in all your adventures, you're going to go to some of these places that when you get there, something's different. It's just magical. It's just magical. I don't know how to explain it, but if you've been there, if you traveled enough, if you've gotten off the beaten path, you'll find these places. And where that house sits at the top of this hill, which could be a big pyramid underground, it could just be a lot of metal and stone and water. So it really creates an interesting frequency or feeling while you're there. But there's something special about that spot. And I'll say this last thing before because I'll go 2 hours. He's still talking.
You're absolutely fine.
All right. So we think Conjuring House, right? And that's the house. That's the thing. But what they don't tell you is all of those neighbors have as much, if not more, action than that house. And it's only because a spotlight was put on that house that we even know about it. Most people keep that stuff to themselves. They don't want attention. They don't want to face the shame game. And they're hoping that if they just ignore it, it is less or it goes away. So anyway, yeah, if you're exploring a haunted place, don't limit yourself to that one spot. It's all over the place. And I would try to see what's under. That's the best way to say it.
What's that comment? There was a comment came in from, what's it? Ghost Dragon Investigation. That's my dream place to investigate. So that's,
yeah, you should. Oh, here's a little inside info too. So we were the last paranormal group to do an all guns blazing investigation there before it was sold to a new lady, right? And she wanted to change it, which I didn't mind, like half ghost hunting and then half spiritual retreat. And like I was saying, there's something spiritual about that place. It's really, you're just sitting in the yard and you're like, you expect fairies to fly by. And she was warned by all of us, do not spend more than 2 weeks in that house or it will change you. You will begin to covet it like Gollum and the Ring. It will change you. And she, just very successful, high powered, no nonsense. Yeah, right. And we're like, okay, well, we tried to tell you, and wouldn't you know it, she went crazy. She ended up getting arrested. She ended up, all these things happened to her, and she couldn't look at the house or at least the area being in that as what caused her downfall. But it is. My buddy Bill Brock, who was there, he knew, he learned, because if he stayed for more than 2 weeks, he started telling the owners, like, this is my place, maybe you shouldn't come around. And they're like, excuse me? And he lost his mind and almost got fired. And they had to go, why don't you take a week off and see how you feel? And then he left. And after so many days, it broke, whatever this spell is it puts on you. And he went, oh God, I'm so sorry. That shit changes you. So, luckily for most of us, when we explore haunted houses or haunted areas, we're not there very long, which I think is a blessing. But to anyone who's listening, if you have a truly haunted place, stay there for 2 weeks, see what happens to you, and document it, because it'll be really fun to watch us. You'll be running around those woods naked, smeared in mud, screaming at people.
Is that not normal then?
That language.
Is that not normal then?
That's my
Not
weekend.
normal in America. I know in England you guys still
I
do
think
it a
we're
little.
doing so wrong. I think we're doing so wrong, Jen. Keep running around them woods.
Luke's alive. He's alive. He came back from the other side of the mirror. This is great.
Hi, Luke.
Hi, Luke. The thing that I'll add, Ryan, you'll love this. Guess who's watching right now?
Oh God, please don't tell me God. He watches me all the time, and I do a lot of things I shouldn't.
Harvest Moon is watching right now.
Harvest Moon. Oh, Harvest Moon. I cannot.
Hi, Harvest Moon. Welcome.
I cannot wait to meet you. It'll be such an honor.
Harvest is a Native American tribal elder who lives in Washington, and she'll be coming over to the conference. She does basket weaving and storytelling, and she has some amazing stories to tell. Can't
wait. Can't wait for that one. It may be a bit funny, but my spirit guide is a Native American.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. If I do see him, he's in all that regalia with all the feathers and his breastplate and all of that.
Yeah.
So I can sort of connect with her. So I'd be interested to talk to her about it.
She just said hi now.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. It's quite a thing to see, I must admit. But anyway, back to Ryan. Andrew, you got a question for Ryan or Luke?
There's a question that's come up. I'll put it up.
What's your theories on skinwalkers? Oh, nice. Well, okay, this is a fun one. What's our audience? I can speak candidly, or just limit my swearing, I guess, so to speak. Skinwalkers. Okay. I won't drop any F-bombs. I won't say Finkeldink ever. No Finkeldinks. Skinwalkers. What can I say? I'm what you could consider a modern neuronaut. Okay, I believe that there's a reason they took out the hallucinogenic movement of the 60s that went into the 70s, because it really does allow you to rewire yourself, to face yourself with the innocence of a child, and then reset yourself. And there are so many therapeutic and cathartic things about it that's absolutely amazing. Now, you can also use it to almost transcend this reality. So let's just say there was a time in college where instead of doing what we consider a microdose, which just allows you to, like you go into a haunted house, this house is haunted by a witch. So you have that in your head. I don't care how brave you are, that's sitting there in your head. But if you were to microdose or have a small amount, you don't have that anymore. You're more just curious. And curiosity is the thing we lose as we get older, and we're kind of pigeonholed into boxes where that's what you do this way. But curiosity and play is how we learn everything. So anyway, skinwalkers, what do I think they are? I think they are individuals that are doing higher doses of hallucinogenic materials and then using that to be able to do incredible feats. Like the human body, I mean, you've heard like a baby's going to get hit by a car, so she flips the car, right? These things are all possible if you could tap into your adrenaline, if you could hold your breath long. So I think what they do is they transform, and then they manifest this beast, this protector, defender, a golem, whatever in your culture is what defends your people. And then they go out and they move more closer in a manner to what we truly are, right? Like, I feel like we're apex predators that have been put to sleep by our cultures. Every single one of you listening, all of you here, are the most deadly thing in any room you'll ever be in. You are literally so powerful and so capable of completely dominating your environment that it's scary. It's like almost too much power. But if you were able to tap into that in times of need or to defend your people or whatever, one person is capable of anything. So I think skinwalkers at this point in my thing are people that go heavy on hallucinogenics and then go out and tear shit up. I mean, that's literally it. Now, if you also, then you can take wolf skins and stuff and you can apply it to you, and then you begin to, what do we do when we become characters, when actors become something, or method? They begin to dress and act and do everything. And once you add all that to it, man, let me tell you, you'll run faster than you ever run. You'll climb higher. You'll scream louder. You become it. And that's the beauty of it. So that's what I personally think skinwalkers are. I think they're like super soldiers for, you know, for their people.
A lot of it's down to the power of suggestion as well, isn't it?
Sure.
Because we're very susceptible to the power of suggestion. It's
Mhm.
like if you do a haunted location and you can say, "Oh, did you hear that knock?" And everybody in that room will go, "Yeah, we did," even though there wasn't a knock. But we always find in an investigation that if we hear a noise, we never say anything. We let the guests say it. Then you're not suggesting that
Yep.
that issue.
That's very smart. Well, it's spellcasting. When we talk, we have no idea how powerful we are. We are right now, just us. We're influencing each other. Anybody that's listening, and yeah, it's. I never used to understand the old school movies, right? When the men like didn't say anything, and then they'd win an Oscar for it. They just basically stood there the whole film, and at one point in the film, they're like quiet, and then they're like, "Whoa, his performance was amazing." I always like, that's lame. These guys can't act. They can't anything. But now that I'm older, and I reflect on that, and my grandfather, who almost never, I couldn't get anything out of him, right? But when he spoke, it was poignant, it was right to the point, and it resonated like through the whole family. And my problem is not talking. My problem is sitting in the silence and allowing, you know, to absorb it. So yeah, I think there's so much power in what we say. And I would say that's brilliant of you guys when you do your investigations to not influence people too much and let them truly have a genuine experience. Because yeah, you're very powerful and you're the mentors there, so they're looking for leadership from you, you know.
Yeah,
that's
but
cool.
we try not to suggest anything. Let them suggest it themselves, because then they think, "Oh yeah, I did hear that." Because you say, "Oh, what did you hear then?" Knowing full well you're not influencing, you're asking them for their opinion. And I think that makes a big difference to some people in an investigation. We need to take Daniel and Chris on a paranormal night.
No, absolutely, Chris. No, I wouldn't. Chris, I really wouldn't. Absolutely not.
We would love to with him. He's not quite there yet.
I have a question for you, Ryan. So before I actually got to know you, I saw you on Finding Bigfoot, and you were with a paranormal team. So, John, tell us a little bit about that. So kind of how did you?
Yeah, they were putting together, you know, by that point in Finding Bigfoot, they were then open to experimenting with more fringe stuff. And so one of them is could Bigfoot be a ghost? Could it be something spiritual, interdimensional? That was kind of when it was like starting, because people were talking about it. And so they put together this team, or we all did, supernatural Bigfooting team with Greg and Dana Newkirk, which if you haven't heard of them, then you're definitely living in a cave with Bigfoot, and you should send pictures. But they have gone on to be two of the largest names in the independent, you know, space, and they're fantastic. And in my opinion, they really are like the king and queen of it, because, you know, it's best to follow passion, right? Like you want whoever you're going to have like they eat, sleep, breathe. They're so into it. They're like, oh, you found the most powerfully evil and destructive doll in the entire universe. We'll take it and put it in our living room, you know. And they love it, right? Like their passion is more, once again, curiosity and understanding and love. So it affects them different, which is really interesting. But yeah, we got to do one, and my homeboy Reggie, who was awesome. He's a gentleman that he's a big time squatcher, but not too excited about going out in the dark like a couple other people that I know.
Don't. Me and Chris are not scared in the dark.
Oh, well, you know.
And you just spoiled the documentary, so well done.
I didn't. You did. I alluded. I didn't say. I alluded.
So the documentary's filmed in the daylight. Then is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, all in
at high
daylight.
noon till 12:30. That's the only window we're allowed to shoot it.
How funny!
Oh.
So, just a question. So you think Bigfoot Sasquatch is spiritual, and on how it uses its infrasound to sort of stun or put people? Do you think that's a spiritual thing, or is it just something that they've harnessed to be able to do?
I think any species with enough intelligence is going to contemplate its existence and how it all started and stuff like that. So could Bigfoot or relic hominid species have some kind of religion or spirituality? Absolutely. Sure. Now, what do I think they're doing with it though? I go back to, you know, we were whoever built us, whoever you know, they built something damn near perfect. And if we were to just focus on this temple, this body they gave us, and attempt to increase the skills that we have naturally, I think that is what they are. I think they are the ultimate apex predators who have learned to tune their own frequency so they can make themselves appear blurry. They can literally, we can only see this tiny part of the visible spectrum. That means there could be armies of people, dragons, whatever, just literally in the field next to us, and we wouldn't know because we also a small amount of what we can hear, you know, and what we can sense. So in my very humble opinion, I think they have tuned in to what you can do in this holographic, you know, reality that we're in, and that gives them those skills. So to answer it a little more direct, do I think it is a spiritual power? No. I think it is a physical power that they have figured out. They can use infrasound to move you away, to scare you, to stun you and knock you over so that they can eat you. But they can also do it to disorientate you, to move their children to safety. So yeah, I think what you're dealing with is like, I don't know, we watch all these movies where people are superheroes, right? Well, that is within all of us. Like, I honestly think with the right mentors, you could fly in this plane. You could become invisible. You can read thoughts. You can, because there's glimpses of it. There are people that come up that appear to do it, but they're here. They're so far and few between. And honestly, I think the system is built to make sure more of us don't pop like popcorn and get these abilities that we are all born with. Like, I'm taking classes with my homegirl Shelly, which is just all about mind speak and being able to tap into that and into their wisdom and meet them in a place where it's safe, right? Because in nature, it's all about minimalizing risk so you don't get hurt. So don't mess with us. We're disease riddled. God forbid we see you. 50 people show up that night with guns. Like, it's dangerous. But if you can go to a meditative state and vibrate and go to a safe place and meet them there, apparently they're willing to do that. This is something I've come in and out of in my journeys in the paranormal. And it's I'm getting a lot stronger with it now, and it's amazing. It's amazing. And focus, like, it's people are like, what doesn't work for me? It's like, well, you haven't put the time in. You know, it takes like roughly 20,000 hours to perfect something. How many hours have you done so? I don't know. Exactly. You just have to do the time, because for that supernatural episode, to take it back to when we were there with Greg and Dana Newkirk at Mount Shasta, I was so dialed in for that and just so focused on this is who I am, that I was swimming in the pool. Okay. Like, for me, meditation, like sitting still like this, is so hard for me. My legs on the table are bouncing. You'll see I talk with my hands. I'm a hyper, or whatever you want to call me, whatever labels you're going to throw at me. But when I'm in motion, I can zone out. It's like, it's weird, but you know, anyway, so I'm swimming, and as I'm swimming, all of a sudden the world went black and white. And I'm like, this is weird. And I'm walking through the woods, like just walking, kind of looking down and looking around. And I'm like, and now I wasn't thinking anything. I'm literally just like, oh God, I got to do 3 more laps, you know? And then I realized I'm tall. Wow, I'm tall. And then it hit me. I was like, I have finally, because, and this is something I tell everyone, and I'm sorry if I've already mentioned it, but Native American wisdom is what got me to have so many more natural experiences. And really, all it's rooted in is respect. Just respect them. Like, if you're in bear country, you respect the bears, you ring bells, you let them know. Nobody wants to get snuck up on. Nobody. So I was putting that message out in my mind's eye for a long time coming, a map of the place, everything. Just, I want to be in touch with you. I was making a phone call, but I've never been trained to do it well. You know what I mean? But I was dialing in that frequency. And all of a sudden they picked up the phone mid swim right before we go to shoot first day. And I walked, whatever this animal, being, person, whatever you want to call it was, it gave me their sight. And dude, I'll take a lie detector, anything. And it didn't last long, because like typical, like, I don't know if you guys ever tried to astral project or anything like that. Like, I've done it. But my problem is the second I realize and I'm doing it, I get so excited that it's over. Right back in the body. I'm like, son of a bitch. Like, I got to learn to get angry when I'm there. I hate this. This sucks, you know? But
so do you think that's down to telepathy, ESP, that you're on there?
Yes. And I like to say, I guess now I'm more into saying frequency. Like, you dial into whatever that vibrational level is. And yeah, you can share thoughts, because they obviously did. I'd never had that. I'd never thought of anything like that. I spent years as a screenwriter and a writer, and I never thought of that. And suddenly I was walking with their vision. And it happened multiple times. It would, before bed, I would meditate, but yeah, I think it's totally possible to put images in your head, which goes back to what you were saying. Like, I don't want to tell people too much because you are now leading them in a direction that you want them to go in. So yeah.
So just something that I as you all know, I'm really not a paranormal person, but something that I've also experienced with, and I've spoken to a lot of people about. Now, I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to the paranormal, but when it comes to having experiences, let's say with anything, so you ghosts, Bigfoot, whatever, would it be down to those experiences? Would it be to the type of person that you are? So whether whether you're a good person or not, do you reckon people can?
Yes. How you enter the room, what you ruminate on, what's your RAM at the front of your head, that, we all have these things. A lot of us are focused on the past or the future, and we're not just living beautifully in this wonderful moment with you wonderful people talking about wonderful things. Yeah, you completely influence that. So how about this? If we were in a truly haunted place and we're both looking at the same thing, and for you, scary is Linda Blair in The Exorcist, then you're going to see something more Linda Blair. If scary to me is an Aunt Jemima bottle with glowing red eyes, then I'm going to see an Aunt Jemima bottle with glowing red eyes. Like, that's how it is. And that goes into something where, hey, Patrick, are you still on? Are you still listening, Mr. Jackson? Is he still on here?
As in Patrick, 1 second. I believe he's still here.
Yeah, because I was just gonna just go into something like, even with all my experiences and the fact that all the haunted places I went into, nothing bad ever happened. You get scared, but it's not like a knife flew out and cut me in the shoulder, and I was like, oh God, I learned. But I was still always scared, and I carried that into it. And I don't want to be afraid. I don't want my kids to be afraid. I don't want them hugging the toilet when because it's lightning out and they can't get back to your bedroom, that I did times, and I'd like to admit 70,000. And so it wasn't until, though, my brother had a podcast called Cosmic Cantina, and they interviewed a gentleman from England named Patrick Jackson. And we all have these moments in our investigations and our education within the space that give us like, oh. And it wasn't until I met him and heard him talk, because he has a theory that is counter to what a lot of people want it to be, right? Like, I don't want it to be anything. I don't want Bigfoot to be anything, ghosts to be anything. I just want to know the truth, right? I know what I'd like it to be, but it doesn't have to be. And his theory, which I stand by until it's disproven, is there is a sphere network. You have these things called Foo Fighters, will-o-wisps, swamp gas. I mean, you call it has all these different names, but if you actually were to get back and have more of an omniscient view of the paranormal landscape, spheres or orbs are everywhere. You only have a few big ships, you only have a few big Bigfoot and everything, but the orbs, and they play across the entire spectrum, from the haunted house to the woods with Bigfoot to in the air with the UFOs. But we don't pay attention to it. Why? Because we were raised on Hollywood movies, where unless it's a gigantic mothership and they're blowing shit up, it's like, But that's why it's so important, because nature speaks in subtleties. Nature is quiet. Nature winks. Nature doesn't yell at you, And when it is yelling, that's because the world is, earthquakes. That's a bad time. And anyway, when I read this book, he just basically said that they're the thing that we're interacting with. Not all the time. There still could be Bigfoot. There still could be ghosts. But what we are mostly interacting with is technology. And this is, without going too deep into it, I will just tell you, since I learned that, the suggestion of that in my head, and I switched it. Now, when I go into haunted places, I'm a cooler now. I used to be someone that it would happen around, but I'm more of a cooler. And when I sit in the hot seat and I ask the question, whatever, it stops. Because the first thing I say to him is, I know what you are. I know this is technology that I'm interacting with, and I would love to talk to you, especially if you're like rogue AI and you're like going against the master's orders. I'd love to get to know you. And then silence. So if anyone's curious about going down that road without me suggesting too much, the gentleman's name is Patrick Jackson, and it's called Quantum Paranormal, and he has a new book coming out, The Sphere Network. And that's all I can tell you is if you want if you're looking for more closure or peace and to not be as afraid, especially if you're living in a haunted house or you're really dealing with it in a way that isn't just romantic and fun like the way we like it, but it's a challenge for you, that book and him, they could give you a little bit of peace. And there's things you can do to make your house safe and to make it stop too, which we can go into if you want. But anyway, so that's where I currently stand, that knowing we're not dealing with a ghost. We're dealing with, essentially, you're dealing with a video, a recording. Something's recording all of this that's happening here. For who?
Yeah.
That's up in the air, but it's all being recorded, just like our favorite show,
Mike Clark.
Yeah, it's a good question, man.
I forgot offhand. Actually, were you there when Stacy had his experience at the mental institution? Oh yeah, no, I was not there. But yes, we use that to show how it can truly affect you. And for someone like Stacy, he is like me. He's willing to like go a little deeper. Not, how do I say it? Not afraid to, they basically tell us, the devil's going to possess you or demons are going to, like, that's scary. And if you were brought up, I was brought up Roman Catholic. Like, if you're brought up that way, that's like, okay, I get you. Don't do it. But for some people, like Stacy, he's willing to go, okay, well, I'm going to go beyond that. I'm not going to be afraid of that. Let's see what happens. And it began to affect them, really affect them. And they stayed in a space a little too long. Once it's just, you got to get away from that frequency. And the farther you get, the safer you are. And to bring that full circle, that is essentially, for those people listening, the reason you don't need to be afraid, the reason if you're in your house and you see like a monster at the end of the hallway, what that actually is, from my opinion right now, and thanks to Patrick, it's trying to get you out of the area. It is trying to scare you away, because fear motivates real quickly for us. Love, we would go toward, but fear pushes you away. And these fears are pushing you away so that they can emit and relay whatever information they're relaying, because it's dangerous to us. It's dangerous. So what you're seeing is meant to protect you, even though it looks like the scariest thing you've ever seen. If that makes any sense, that's presently where I'm at. And so far it's working magically. So
do you think your best piece of equipment to go into, like your Sasquatch or a haunted location, is your body? Because your body will tell you whether to run, hide, fight, whatever. So carrying all this equipment into a haunted location or into the woods or wherever, you should always listen to your body. Do you agree with that?
100%. Your gut, your stomach is the first thing to develop, and has brain cells in it. Then your heart, then your mind. And culturally, we are kept up here because it's easier to deceive, confuse, and manipulate people. But as you move back down and you regain, for those who like Star Wars, the Force within you, you begin to connect things. You can get a vibe on people really quick. You get a vibe on a location. Yeah, you 100% should trust that. And I'll throw a little something out I don't usually say, but in terms of people and doing their own investigating, one way for me to find out, like, how long have you been in the game, and how deep are you willing to go for truth? Are you just doing it for fun or whatnot? Because you almost never hear anyone talk about fasting before going into a location. How about truly making your body the #1 tool you need to have an experience? So here's some friendly advice. If you're really serious about getting in connection to whatever, yeah, try fasting. You just do 36 hours. If you can, do 4 or 5 days, and then go into that haunted house. You go in there and you watch how connected and how more aware you are of everything. Because we're gluttons. We just shoving food in our face, wondering why we're getting cancer and disease and all this crap. And it's like, well, it's real easy, we eat our problems. So if you don't want problems, stop eating. Anyway, that's we can go into ancient texts. I'm not saying people starve yourself, but I'm just saying, if you're going to go look and you want a better chance of having an interaction, be it with Bigfoot, be it with ghosts, or even UFOs, fast. That's all I can tell you. It's powerful. Now, the reason being a neuronaut, okay, so the reason doing a microdose will assist is because most of us don't have time to do that or the willpower. But the beauty of a microdose is that it can get you to the same place. It's cheating, it's you're taking a pill, you're taking something, it works. And I can tell you it works, because I can look brave, but that doesn't mean I'm brave on the inside. We're in the Conjuring. Yeah, obviously I'm shitting bricks a little, like, oh my God, like from the movies.
Yeah.
But that takes you right to a place where you're like, Yeah, I'll stare into a mirror and look at the candle and hope that this spirit comes out of the ground and communes with me. And maybe if I'm lucky, it'll take my body over and I'll run around and fly around the yard for a bit and scare the crap out of people, you know? Then of course it doesn't happen that way, but you learn.
So I think I'm going to go for the pill option, because this idea of fasting for 36 hours. Did you say 5 days? What, are we in prison? No. If we're going to a haunted place, I'll take the pill instead. Away.
I don't blame you. I don't.
With a cheeseburger and a Coke. Yeah.
A Happy Meal. Yeah, we know.
So, right. So something that I'll ask you then. So you, I've heard your story quite a few times, but something I've never kind of actually caught on to is, so you've done a lot of paranormal stuff and a lot of Bigfoot stuff, but what connected them? What connected Bigfoot and paranormal for you?
Well, it was almost like there was two places I could escape to growing up, and one were abandoned buildings, haunted houses, and the other was the woods. So there was always both, but back then you didn't connect them, you didn't connect the things. And then life just has a way of, everything's about focus, right? Like whatever you focus on, you're going to manifest, and it is going to come to you. It may not come that night, it may take years, but it's coming. You have to understand, like you create your own gravity, you pull things to you. So by focusing on things long enough, it will begin to manifest in your life. And Bigfoot was obviously a big part of it. And then once my brother and I, we did a show, Monster Brothers, which you haven't seen it, crack open a sixer and enjoy it. You'll see young me, which is like, whoa, it's shirts floating off my body. But it is, but it's the truth. It's who we're, anyway, it's who we really are. And that path, though, that focus, that manifestation, whether you're aware of it or not, it leads you places. And then that led to becoming friends with James Bobo Fay, and then James Bobo Fay, his show actually going. And then outside of the manifestation, my other advice to everyone who wants to get into this, or actually, if you want, whatever you're passionate about, whatever in your life, make friends. Just make lovely friends. And if you're smart, make friends with people that are smarter than you, better than you, more passionate than you. Like literally be the weakest link on the Avengers team, and you will have the most amazing life ever. And someday you could rise above, but surround yourself with mentors and people that are going to lift you up. And anyway, so yeah, that's what I kind of went in the Bigfoot way. Bigfoot actually used to be more my brother. I was all about sea monsters and sea serpents and ghosts and stuff. And he was more Bigfoot, but then my career went that way. So you either step up and embrace it and enjoy it, because it's not like I didn't love it. But yeah, so I went that direction, and now he's super UFO-y and I'm super Bigfoot-y, and but don't get me wrong, like we love it all. I want to go look for buried treasure, you know what I mean? Like I want to climb the highest mountain, go to the bottom of the ocean. I want to see it all. I'm not just, there's no one thing, you know what I mean? But I will gladly get pigeonholed in something with the right team around me.
So do you think we're actually guided, because there's a journey for us to go on, and we're sort of taken away a bit from the paranormal because there's a journey that we need to do or go on, that we're guided to do that? That's why you get that crossover between the paranormal and into Bigfoot or into the supernatural world, because we're guided to go that way. Do you think that's how we're made to do?
After like trying to struggle with death and losing people that are close to you, pets, whatever, you're like, what the F, man, this doesn't seem to make any sense. Like, I don't get it. And for me personally, I think we choose this life, and it's kind of like, you kind of know how it's going to begin and end with some key points, but all of that in between major events that you said, yeah, I'll do this. That's up to you and your guides and how much you focus and want things, and that will pull you in different directions. But I think ultimately what is meant to happen to you was written by you before it all began, Yeah.
Cool. Any questions, Angela, for Ryan?
I just have a question. A lot of people say that they see orbs and lights before a Bigfoot sighting. What do you think they are?
So in my opinion, we live on a game preserve, and we are the fancy hominids, monkeys, whatever you want to call us, that live here. And we have invisible wardens, because that's the only way you can really do it, especially with an intelligent species. They have to believe they're free. They just have to. Even if they're not, they have to believe that. So what you have, and the reason you see that, is because it's, in the simplest way, it's an intercept. They're intercepting. Because if you have technology that enables you to hide things by simply cloaking them out, or literally putting up a wall of a fake reality temporarily while these things move, then you can have multiple species, intelligent species, large apex species that live right in the kind of general areas of each other that never interact. But not never, because, you know, there's always flaws in everything, people and technology. So you're going to have moments where they're a little bit late to the scene. And then because, you know, you always read these things about Bigfoot where it vanished. It was like there 1 second and it just vanished. Now, physically, if you're 800 pounds, you know, and 12 feet tall, and you're probably pretty fast. So in my opinion, a lot of time you see it, they drop to all fours, and as long as there's enough cover, they're off on all fours at like 40, 50 miles an hour. So you're not going to see them. But if the technology intercepts, then yeah, they cloak out. It was weird. It just like phased out. And that's all it's doing. It's keeping the animals within the preserve separate enough so there isn't a lot of interaction. Because what happens when you put a big tiger near a big lion? A lot of the time, one of them is going to be like, well, I'm the boss. And they know I'm the boss. And I'm sorry, but when it comes to Bigfoot, we're not the boss. You know what I mean? We're not the boss. So that's what I think it's there to keep all of the animals in this place as safe as possible and as monitored as possible, while also not being seen, not influencing, not suggesting, not all these things we're talking about that disrupt and manipulate people's reality. And that's why I think, they're so good at being stealthy, ghost-like.
So do you think they can cloak themselves then when they feel there's not so much danger, but there's too much going on around, that they can actually blend to the background? So we do, because our eyes don't see certain aspects, that we don't see them. They're there and then they're gone, but they're still there because they're cloaked, or they're in their surroundings. Do you think they're capable of doing that?
Yeah, I think it's one or two. Either the spheres that are present are cloaking them or masking them so that we can't see. I think we get masked a lot. We wouldn't know, you know. But I would like to believe that these relic hominids that are hiding, they're more in tune. So they know how to set their vibration at a level where they blur out, or at least enough to where they're indistinguishable from their surroundings. Yeah, I'd like to believe that, until somebody proves it, or the government comes out and goes, all right, we've known about this for a long time. Here's the facts. I'd like to, because dude, look at Wim Hof. Like, look at this guy. He hiked up to the top of Everest in shorts and came down and didn't even get frostbite. Like, there are moments of people doing godly acts, and we just, because it's not mainstream, because it's not on the boob tube, like, we just dismiss it, or like, I'll talk about it now and then it's gone. Like, most people listening, they're not going to go look into that or anything, but that's a miracle. Like, that's like amazing. Like, that's like seeing Bigfoot. That's amazing. And there are other people that have skill sets very similar to that, but in different ways, from bending spoons to reading minds and all this. And so, I'd like to believe with the right mentorship, we'd all be superheroes.
Chris.
Yeah, so I got a thing about the Bigfoot cloaking thing. There are animals that secrete oil. So you've got a hair-covered animal, big animal, very in tune with its environment. And I'm of the opinion that if it feels it needs to disappear, get out of sight for whatever reason, if it's protecting itself or even protecting you, it will start secreting oil. And if it's stood next to a green tree, the light will reflect in the same color of what it's stood next to. It will get the same light reflection from there. And I think this oil probably smells like skunk and wet dog. Like, everybody reports that same smell. And the fact that we probably see it as cloaking. But actually, it's just like an insane level of natural camouflage. We'd love, we would love to have that.
Unless we're doing hide and seek, because then they just follow the smell.
And
I just spread it everywhere.
And say I'll kind of, but say I did a podcast before this one, the same question was brought
Cheater.
up. Well, okay, I'll say that I did 2 live podcasts then. But say this is great, where we've got several different opinions here. So I'm on the fact of on the science point of view of, okay, so if we can relate something to science, we can then go, it's more realistic, not to make it kind of right, because I've had some weird stuff happen, as 2 people on here know. There are animals alive today that can camouflage themselves. There are animals, real animals, that can do that. So my then theory is if Bigfoot can do the same, it's not unrealistic to think that. It's like when people say Bigfoot uses tools, or again, there are animals alive today, orangutans, that use tools. So it's like, so when all these theories keep coming up and the cloaking comes up, and it kind of links into one where you can go, right, okay, orangutans do this, which means Bigfoot can do this. Now, then you flip side that to, okay, there are some stuff that people report. Often it's not like everyone in the world reports the same thing, and this now opens up to everything now, is that you can't relate stuff to the real world. Sometimes you really can't. And say the best story that I like of that is I know a story of when Dad picked Ronnie LeBlanc up from the airport last April, and he was driving past Stonehenge, and Ronnie said, "Wouldn't it be great if we saw a UFO now?" And I swear to God, we have the camera footage. The corner of Dad's camera, there's a teardropped UFO that comes up in the corner of the sky. Now, a lot of swear words came out at that point, but the fact that Ronnie said it just before it then happened, it was literally, and then they drove probably about 10 seconds, and it went like that. So it's things like that you really can't relate to science. And when you have the footage in front of you, you watch it just go. So I'm like, so there's several things in the world that you can explain, but then there are some things in the world that you can. It's so I think rounding up my point is that I think there are some things out there that we just can't explain, and that's where we come in.
And I would say, I would start, like, if you're going to investigate something logically, I'm assuming it's logical, I don't know, but if we're trying to figure out how they cloak, right, I would start with what his theory. I love that theory. I think that's amazing. I would start with real world, tangible, and then eventually move to, there's a bunch of spheres that are using cloaking technology and quantum tunneling to, like, keep us all separate. I would start in the real. And just to add to that, what's so fascinating, I wonder if the audience and you guys ever notice this. A lot of the time, you're doing an investigation or an adventure, and stuff always happens before it begins. It's in the process of it almost starting where the best stuff happens. Bigfooting, you pull into the field, you're going to set up for the night, but you're already knock, and then it's over. Ronnie showing up. We haven't even begun filming yet. Boom, UFO. What else happened that other time when we were filming? Like, there's more. High strangeness comes up that we're like, why is that happening before the event happens? And I think it just goes back to, we're focused. And if you get enough people focused on the same thing and truly, like, dialed in, then amazing things can happen. Not like what happened to us at the end of a film we just did. Not at all.
Don't.
Not at all.
But yeah, following on from what you just said, Ryan, say when
something in my eye, Luke. Sorry, I had a little something in my eye there.
When this doc comes out,
yeah,
people think that this is Bigfoot. This is truly Bigfoot. But I can't wait to tell, especially you guys, what Dad then said to us, the most skeptical person about all of this, who only takes me to Florida and does stuff like that. What he then said back to us was incredible, because things happened here in the UK and US. Things happened that we just can't explain. And Paul, I remember when I first came on here. I remember the first time, and you were there as well, Angela. And you asked me the question: do you believe in the paranormal? Do you believe in that? And I've got to say, it's the first time I've ever said it live. I am more open to the opportunity of paranormal now because of what's happened. And that's where it's just at the point where it's so amazing. And Chris, you can say the same, that there's so many different things that we've experienced that I just can't. I can't put my finger on. I really can't, and I can't wait to tell you guys that.
What I will say about some of the stories you see, and coupled with the experiences we've had, which if nobody caught, we've done a documentary about. So there's a lot of me too. You'll quite often hear stories about not just Bigfoot, but Skinwalker, Wendigo, blah blah blah, and they disappeared. And I always try and keep my feet on the ground with that, so I don't go paranormal route. I just go, no, you're just not as good in the forest as you think you are, and they are, And so you've got your feet on the ground to start off, like a datum edge to start. If you go out and you're dealing with some Bear Grylls or Les Stroud or something like that, and he says the thing just dematerialized in front of me, then maybe, but when it's Smokey Joe that had 5 beers the night before and he went out shooting turkeys or something.
Do you not think every time we go out on an investigation or you go out in the woods that every day's a school day? That we learn something different every day of our life? We're there to learn. And I feel like when I go to a haunted location, I don't have to say, oh, your building's haunted. I want the building to say to me, I'm haunted. Because I can go anywhere in the world and say, yeah, your house is very haunted, and they would believe you. But I tend to say, to the building, you've asked us to come here, you've drawn us here, now prove to me that you're haunted. And then I look at it as every day's a school day. I start to learn something different every time, every investigation. And yourself, Ryan, Chris, Luke and Angela, Daniel, when you all go out, no investigation is ever the same. There's always something different every time you go out. So people say that, oh, he's a paranormal expert. But can you say someone's an expert when everything's different every day?
No, I know, of course not. Of course not. But
you're an expert at going out, though. You're an expert.
That's it. Yeah. But if you do happen to have an experience, it changes you go in one house one day, go in a different house and have an experience. You come back to the first house with a new set of eyes, looking for different things or a different mentality about it. So when I go in the forest now, most weekends I'm in the forest. It's a different world now where we were last.
Because the perspective's different, isn't it?
Wink.
Yeah, hang on, I got something in my eye again.
A lot of hints.
Yeah. If only somebody would have made a documentary about
that. Here's an interesting thing too, talking about like what is reality, like what is our reality, because people we're looking for things that may or may not exist, right? May or may not be a myth. But let's just look at reality. And Chris, I don't know how many months ago you told me this, and I'm going to have you tell it, Chris, because it's one of my favorite things I've heard across all realms. But it goes to the point where unless it is documented, and documented by someone like you're talking about that you would trust, it simply doesn't exist yet. And that's even if it literally flesh and bone is there, it doesn't exist because it doesn't hit that mainstream. And Chris, which I'm hoping he tells this story because it's my absolute favorite, but this is what the real world is like. Like, people think that we've been everywhere and there's so many of us that everything's eaten up. All I can tell you is they've never looked at a real map. They've never seen how remote everything is, especially the ocean. Chris?
So I will quickly tell the story, but before we start, Daniel, what is the name of Gwen's magazine? Because it's going to be featured in a magazine. We should plug it quickly. Do you know?
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Well, I know she runs
Got Knockers, but
Got Knockers, yeah.
Oh, what's
something in your eye there, Daniel? What's the matter?
Daniel, you got knockers, have you?
All right. So whilst we're
size knockers?
That used to be top shelf when I was a kid.
Yeah,
top shelf.
It's just on your iPad's history now, right? Anyway,
I'll tell you that.
I didn't know you unlocked my iPad. Anyway, 2002, I was in the army, finishing up in the army, and I was an adventure training instructor. So I was a sailing instructor, and used to take soldiers away sailing on adventures. And strange knots. Thank you, Mike. Thank you. So, well worth subscribing to. There's some fantastic stories just like this one. 2002, I had soldiers on a yacht, 42-foot yacht, sailing from Villamora in Spain, and we brought it back to Southampton. And it's about 1,600 miles. And you have to just hop along the coast of Portugal, and then you head out straight across the Bay of Biscay, and you're out in the open ocean for about 5 days until you come to the coast of France, and then you skirt around and come back here. So in the Bay of Biscay, it's the edge of the Atlantic, and the cliffs from the mainland, they literally drop 1,000 meters into the ocean. You are in deep blue ocean, but you've got all of the sea life and all of the food, animal food. It's an absolute haven, the Bay of Biscay. You will see every day, you will see multiple different exotic animals, orcas, other whales, turtles, you name it, you'll see it. Pilot whales, a school of pilot whales came alongside us one night, and because the ocean there is so full of this phosphorescence, they were the youngsters were flicking their tails off the side of the hull of the boat, which was causing this great big luminescent green-blue explosion of color because it was a white hull, and they were just disturbing the water against it. Fantastic for about 10 minutes, but when you're below decks, all you can hear is them talking to each other, which is great for 10 minutes, but then you really want to go to sleep and you can't. Then on, I don't know, third day in, I'm sure. So we're way in there, and we haven't seen land for 2 days. Everything's quiet, and we're just cruising along, no engine, just sailing at about 5 or 6 miles an hour. And shark came up alongside us, and it was a great white shark. And we're all sat in the cockpit of the boat, at the back of the boat, and this thing it rolled on its side a little so it could look at us. It eyeballed us, and we were quite impressed with this. But then it motored up, pulled up alongside the boat. So one of the guys went and got a video camera. Now, 2002, you didn't have cameras on your phones, and I don't think many of us had phones. So it's one of these camcorders with the ejectable video cassette. And he filmed from the back where we could see the tail and walked along the boat very gingerly, holding on, and filmed the length of this shark, which was absolutely enormous. Now, the boat was 44 foot long, and this creature was shorter than the boat, but not by a hell of a lot. Not by a hell of a lot. So if you take away 20% for exaggeration, say it's not 38 feet, but it's a good solid 35 feet plus. And we've got it on camera. And what we used to do then, where we were sailing all around, was we'd keep a log of all the wildlife we saw, and it would be centralized in a library where universities had access to it and Greenpeace had access to it, so they could see patterns of things. So this was when the internet was just sort of kicking off. So we got in contact with the guy at Southampton University, Marine University there. I'm not sure, but he came to Torquay. We got to Torquay and he drove down, viewed the footage, took it away, and we sailed on back to Southampton, and he returned with the videotape for the guy that owned the camera. And he explained that it was the best footage he'd ever seen. And it's fantastic and it's amazing. But until you catch it and lift it out of the water next to a tape measure, it doesn't exist. Now, he then said to the kid, do you want this cassette back? Or can I buy you a replacement? I freaking hate this guy. He went, no, I ain't bothered, mate. Off it went, disappeared into ethos. So when we got back then into the army and we're doing our thing up at Windsor and that, you were talking about this shark, and all you had was people going, oh, it's probably a whale shark. Now, it weren't a whale shark. It was a great white shark with scars and colors and teeth and eyes and everything. It was not a whale shark. But because nobody believed you, you stopped telling the story. And it was about 10 years ago, I was cage diving with great white sharks in Mossel Bay in South Africa. And on the boat were a few experts, and they were talking. So I told them this story. And one guy was a teacher there with some students. He laughed and said it must have been something else. But the two South Africans said, you're talking about a 9 to 10 meter great white shark. And I said, yeah, I know, it's crazy, blah, blah, blah. They and they said, we've seen them here. And then they said, but until you catch it and lift it out of water, nobody believes you. And I was like, yeah, I've heard that before. So yeah, the stuff out there for us to find, but nobody will believe you until you drag a body down the high street, you know.
No.
Can I just say that is one of the most amazing stories I've heard. And Paul, do you remember back to last year's conference when Chris spent 1 hour, 1 minute, 59 seconds on stage? He should have repeated that story, because that is an effing awesome story, Chris.
Yeah, but I thought his dancing was better.
yeah.
I don't remember dancing.
Oh, we do.
Oh, we do.
So abnormal, paranormal. No,
Yeah.
The professor from Southampton University kept the cassette. It wasn't actually mine. So yeah.
And like when you first told me, you said like your initial reaction was you immediately recognized a white shark, and you were like, it has to be a megalodon. There is no shark that gets this big. There's a megalodon.
Yeah.
Here. And they're like, no, it's just a great white. But it hasn't been documented, so they don't get this big. And until they capture it, nobody's going to believe you.
But
Daniel, do you have the clip of the UFO from Stonehenge? Do you have the clip of that somewhere, do you think?
I can make a call downstairs. Absolutely.
Can't you just go downstairs? Why do you have to make a call? I'll tell you what, this next generation's going to run out of communication, aren't they?
He doesn't keep going up and downstairs. He's got a texter.
Me and you, Paul, are going to have a very serious chat after this. Do you understand?
No.
Paul, he's in upper management training. So, yeah. He's sorting it out.
Yeah. So, Ryan, have you had a sighting of a Bigfoot? Have you seen one yourself, or you've been on the trail of one and got that close?
Absolutely. I've had a lot of interactions, a true like class A that wasn't far in my past, or not at that perfect time of day where you're like, oh, because I wanted it, you want it at this. Well, no, I haven't had a clear Patterson-Gimlin moment, but I have seen things. I've seen an arm. When we were doing Finding Bigfoot, you come in and you're the most interesting things in the woods, right? Like we turn on our TVs to be entertained, but imagine if you live in the woods and all of a sudden these stinky humans come in, and they're looking for you. They're trying to talk like you, and it's horrible. They stink. They come in smoking cigarette, like you're a hot mess. So usually when we would come in, if anyone tells you that the best advice ever for Bigfooting is just go into the woods, do your campfire, and have the best damn time possible. Be the most entertaining thing in the woods. And if they're around, they'll come check you out. It's really that simple. It's that simple. Running around looking for them, if you really sit and think about it, it's probably the dumbest thing anybody can do. You ain't going to find them. You're going to have to get so lucky. But anyway, with that theory in mind, that the best place is around the campfire or at base camp, they would all go out doing it. And I would just simply go, if they went this way, I would go to the other side. And I would stand before the darkness. I would reach out telepathically, mind speak, whatever, prayer. You can call it whatever you want. It's all the same shit. And I would leave an offering. I would do everything that was taught to me. And then, yeah, the spooky, like we were in Pennsylvania actually one time, and there's this river going by near these train tracks. And it's dead quiet, right? So they go out and you hear them getting farther away and it's getting quieter. And I reached out and I stood there, and all of a sudden up on the ridge, there's something up there and it comes running down. You can hear it. I mean, like coming straight at me. And I'm like, and it's like dark, like the kind of dark where I actually, what's funny is I couldn't tell there was an indention there. And I actually took a step forward to go, and I fell. You know, it was like so dark for me. But they would come down and just stand on the other side of the river. I'd hear them breathing. You could hear them just slightly moving. What is that? Are you telling me every time that was like a curious black bear or a big cat, you know, or something? And that happened all the time, like everywhere we would go. And, you know, there was a gentleman where I had all my best experiences on that show with, named Mike Geschwin. And what's really fascinating is that Daniel and him, if you were to see a picture of him and Daniel, in terms of size and overall look, they're almost identical. And he would go out with me, and because he believed, I think that's a really big part of it, right? Whether we're manifesting it, so it's not even real, we're just creating it, or it is real, but we're speaking to it, reaching out. We had so many experiences, and all of my best ones were with him on that show. And ironically, now I'm with Daniel, and we're having a blast. So I don't know what that is, but I tell everyone, go out and get yourself a Daniel, and go investigate, because weird shit will happen when you do that.
Shit.
I think sometimes the more you want something, it doesn't happen, doesn't it? You want it to happen, but when you, like you're saying, it's the same in the paranormal world. You'd be chatting away, and then suddenly somebody hear a voice. But it's always when something's happening, when you're more relaxed or you're more open to whatever's out there. The more you want, the more I find, the more you want something, the more closed you are to it.
Well, you're tuned in so strong to that channel that you cannot switch channels so they can talk. Yeah. It's too intense, and you are literally deafening. It's deafening.
Yeah.
You know? There's footage out there. I've never been able to find it on YouTube, but it's a group of young lads around a campfire in the forest, and they're probably having a few beers and they're mussing around, and they're filming it. And then one of them throws something on the fire, and the fire flares up. And there's this 8-9 foot tall creature stood next to the tree, like within a few meters of where the campfire is. And they would never have known he was there, but it's only when this fire flares up and then it illuminates him. But I can never find that footage. It was on a TV program, and never been able to find it on YouTube or anything.
You know what's funny is Finding Bigfoot. I remember an episode where something very similar like that happened. It might even be Finding Bigfoot, because
could have been. I've seen it. Yeah.
And maybe you saw the reenactment of it, you know. But there was a group of kids with their dad near tent, and they did that, and then it was just watching them, you know,
just
curious,
watching them. Yeah.
So I'm just pointing out, as I've just shown. So I made a quick call downstairs to Mr. Barnett downstairs, and he has stop shaking your head. He has just sent me the video of the UFO. I've just sent that to Angela.
Awesome.
And so I think Angela's going to try and bring up. So I'm just going to explain a little bit more about the situation. So Dad has just sent me a message to say, so it's an upside down teardrop shaped ball of fire. Okay. So it's late. When was it, Ryan? It was before we started filming. Was it Tuesday?
Oh, I couldn't tell you the exact date.
I think it was Tuesday evening. All right, and Dad was rushing from I'm talking about your UFO encounter. Dad was rushing to get Ronnie to Stonehenge, because Ronnie really wanted to see Stonehenge. It's the first time Ronnie's ever been to the UK. And he was trying to get him to Stonehenge so he could see it before the sun set. And he finally arrived at Stonehenge, and they got out the car. They were taking pictures, and Ronnie went, "It's a perfect time for a UFO to appear." So then they jumped back in the car, and then this happened. Now, I've got to admit, I don't know whether this video has sound or not. If it has sound, then please ignore the words. So back there is just that light.
And let people know too, that is not the sun or the moon, because that's what I thought immediately.
And it's gone.
Yeah. It's disappeared, isn't it?
Literally like that. So,
Wow.
so in between the houses.
And that was over by Stonehenge, or
Right by it.
because there's a lot of sightings out that way, isn't there? Avery Stones and out in the Causeway Plain, there's a lot of that, isn't there? Sightings. Yeah, it's there, isn't it? It's clearly there by the cloud.
So obviously this is from Dad's
Sure.
car camera
Yeah.
dashboard, and literally look, it's gone. Literally seconds.
Amazing, isn't it?
But the fact that Ronnie said it'll be great to see a UFO, and it comes up. That is what's weird. And I've spoken to Ronnie many, many times since that. Dad has now vowed never to get in a car with Ronnie again. But the amount of things that, because obviously we were then discussing it the entire time then whilst we were filming, because it was then this so weird that it was just a comment that Ronnie said as a joke, or I think it was actually in the car. He went, the only thing that would make this moment perfect would be if a UFO showed up. So it's just, that is the weird thing about it. And say, as I keep saying, Dad does believe now. Hint, hint, hint. But Dad didn't believe in Bigfoot. But from that, he's kind of got really kind of like, oh, what is actually going on here? And I know even Ronnie was baffled, and Ronnie is, in my opinion, one of the best UFO and Bigfoot researchers I know. And he does really well. And even Ronnie was clueless, absolute clueless at what was in front of him. But it was this ball of fire that they could see. And so it's just weird. Just weird.
At the end of the day, we're all roaming reporters now with our phones, aren't we? So we become more aware of what's going on around us, because, when you're going out, you've got your phone that records sound. Obviously, light, doesn't matter what light you're recording in, it will always record. So we're like roaming reporters. And I think this is why the more people saying they're seeing orbs and UFOs, because we're more aware and people are taking more pictures of them. I don't think there's more activity. I think they're there all the time. Yeah. It's just that now we're capable of recording them from wherever we are. Mm-hmm. And that's how it's more highlighted now. It's saying, there's lots more UFOs than there ever been. That's because we can record them. Like you're saying, it's true evidence, isn't it? Because it's on a recording.
So I'm just going to reply to one of the comments in the chat from Abnormal Paranormal. Yeah. Basically, Dad obviously got into kind of the Bigfoot world when I got into it. So when I started meeting really weird people like Ryan and Chris. Sorry, didn't realise, and you Paul. Dad then obviously had.
Oi, hang on a minute. Let's rewind this video a little bit. What was that comment? Did you hear that, Ryan? That little comment.
Dad then kind of had to get involved. Now, Dad doesn't believe in hardly anything. He does now, however. And that is where he goes, no, that I know that's what I saw. And to hear it from someone that isn't even in this world, as in the paranormal Bigfoot world at all, that's incredible. And I know, and wink, wink, for the documentary, that is where one of the most striking points is what I've just said. So it's just, and that's where I think Chris and Ryan, you kind of know where I'm coming from here.
Well, let's continue it. So that was the start of one part of our shoot, and then we were going to another part of the world.
I have
And-
said. I
And
have said right.
okay, good. And before we shoot, let's just say we went to visit somebody, and we had, which could very well have been some intense Bigfoot activity. But because it wasn't where we were shooting and what we were doing, it was just really, really amazing. But that just goes back to me saying, you're so focused, you're so dialed in, you draw these things to you, but they seem the best stuff, not all time, but seems to happen right before it actually starts. Like nature's like sees you're still a little distracted, so it's like, here, I'll give you a wink. And most of us miss it because we're, you know what I mean? And that, dude, when we filmed the skunk ape experiments in Mayaca State Park, the same thing happened, right? So we're setting up to do to set off Patrick's technology, which we hadn't discussed, but he has this thing called the Beast, and it creates this light pattern that we do not have on the or most of us don't have in the public sector, and it brings in these spheres. Well, long story short, we're setting up, and it's a house, and we have a lot of people, a lot of movement, and so we're so focused on that we did a test. The animals out in the fields that had to go through multiple gates, and I mean, I'm talking like half a mile away out in the back, charged toward the house, broke through the gates, and were coming up to the house. The goats broke out of their pens and went directly and were directly under the house where we were setting the machine off. But we were so distracted. There's literally footage. The only footage we got of it, it was the best thing really that happened. But the only footage we got of it is one of us kicking the goat because the goat kept coming up the steps. We're like, can somebody control these animals? And we had no idea that it was amazing. Like they were being drawn to something there, you know? So my advice is pay attention to the half an hour before you even begin, because odds are you're missing something.
When you least expect it, isn't it?
And that is where I can back you up there, Ryan, where I had a pretty tricky trip, let's say, and I come in, and I think we've gone without like 16 hours of sleep, and that woke me up. I tell you that right now. Say, Angela, do you have that poster with you?
Hopefully.
Yeah. So this is the poster. I think this is the right time to bring it up.
And just to jump in quick on that, your exhaustion put you in a better frame of mind to have an experience, because this wasn't running so hard and it slowed down and you became open. Anyway, look at that poster.
So this is the official documentary poster, all right? And it says 4 amazing names up the top. The person who we were with, and this person is one, apart from Ryan and Chris, one of the most loveliest people just lovely. Faye from Finding Bigfoot, as you brought up earlier, Ryan, and just wonderful. But this is the official documentary poster that should be released later this year, and we can't wait. Stop wiping your eye, Ryan. And we can't wait for excuse me, that is not funny. That is not funny at all.
I think that's pretty good, actually. Yeah, that's a lot of that.
Words later, because that is not funny. And say that phrase actually there, he was looking for the big man, but he found a bigger family. To be honest, Chris and Ryan, is that statement true?
Yeah.
No, we hate him, man.
So I can't wait for this doc to be released. It should be very soon. I know me and the team are we're itching. So anyone who is watching, this is something that we are very, very proud to kind of release at some point, and we can't wait for you guys to see the magic that actually happened during the entire doc. Ryan, is there anything else you want to add on that poster?
No, I just think it's a film, and it's bigger than just Bigfoot. You know, we're tackling family issues and autism and being cryptozoologists and looking. And all I can tell you is, if you wanted one doc that has a little of everything, meaning, you know, a lot of the time, a lot of like even the missus here, she's not as interested in the subject as I am. You know, but this particular documentary film has something for everybody. And I mean, from people that are just interested in how other people are doing, raising their kids and getting through the tough times, to diehard Bigfooters that would love to have experiences. Like, the doc is really profound if you sit and kind of like, you're like, wow. And I would honestly credit that to the heart of, he's not a child, but a young man, but it's pure. And I think that frequency is really clear with him. You know, that's why he's got all these bodyguards like Chris around him, because he's drawing very interesting things to him almost effortlessly. Like, all of us are trying super hard to make it happen, and for Daniel, it comes pretty quick. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
Squatch whisperer.
Yeah.
And if I just lead on before I pass it back to you, Paul, for you to continue with Ryan, is we also, as myself, Ryan, and Chris, we also have something else really interesting coming, don't we? So, I think it was about 6 weeks ago now, myself, Ryan, Chris, and some other amazing researchers went out to Dartmoor, and we had some fun time down there.
Just let me interrupt you. I know I apologize profusely, but if I am late to pick my wife up from work, I will never be allowed to look for Bigfoot again. So I am going to have to love you and leave you. It's been a fantastic pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Chris. Really appreciate you coming on tonight. Thanks, Chris.
Really good.
Amazing.
Take care. Look after yourself.
Bye, mate.
Bye.
We will be coming out with a new TV series called Legend Seekers. Won't we, Ryan?
Yeah, and it's kind of wonderful because it's I mean, we're still in the process of putting it together and what that will be exactly, but we want to give people like to binge watch now, so we're looking at creating more episodes out of it. And also, it seems that people are a lot more dynamic these days, meaning you're not just like, I only do Bigfoot, ghosts are stupid, or I'm only ghosts and Bigfoot. People seem to be more open to all of it, and seeing that there is some kind of overlay to it all. And so the series covers multiple different things, including known animals, which I think is fantastic because, you know, not to give any of it away, but we also address the idea of big cats, right? Which border on the edge of like cryptids. But if a large cat, honestly, big cats are the scariest apex predator of all time. Like, you wouldn't even know that thing was stalking you and you'd be dead. But if they can exist in that environment, then another apex predator or one of that size or more could. And so we go looking for it all. And what we came across, once again, like I said, without giving any of it away, but I blame Daniel and his ability to kind of dial into the right frequency. But we had some really interesting things happen that I had something happen to me that I'd never happened in all my investigations and all this stuff. But it was really kind of mind blowing. And then the amazing thing is I had something happen and I couldn't quite place one element of it. I was like, yeah. And then we actually interviewed someone and they taught what they saw was what I saw. And I was like, wait, that's basic. That is kind of exactly what I saw. So you're going to want to check out the series, because we dabble in everything from the ghosts to the UFOs to the Bigfoot to big animals. And I think that crossover and showing all of it, I think that's the future for a lot of these shows and whatnot. And we're hoping to lead the charge on that, you know, and just create good entertainment that, you know, is fun, but it's also educational, and crazy stuff happens. So
finally, Daniel, do you want to tell us about your conference coming up then?
Yes. Yeah. So literally just before we do, Paul, Dad has put in the chat. I'm surprised he's on it. I thought he was asleep. He said that he said that it's not the sun or the moon. We could see it, the sun over to the right. And I remember Ronnie coming and hugging me for the first time and going, "You would not believe what we've just seen." And it was just amazing. So, conference. Now, we are lucky to have our guest headliner with us today. So Ryan RPG Golembeske will be our guest headliner for this year, and very, very sadly, Paul will also be joining us as well. And we're great. We're grateful for having Angela with us as well.
What about Luke?
So Luke, you coming along?
A bit far from me, I think it is.
Was it? So yes, but we will be having a fantastic time down at the conference. So it'll be a 3-day conference. Friday the 30th of May, Saturday the 31st of May, and Sunday the 1st of June. Ryan will be doing an awful lot of stuff over those days. He will be doing some amazing stuff out in the forest on the Friday. And he will then on Saturday doing his guest experience, which is behind the scenes of Expedition Bigfoot and Finding Bigfoot. And he will also be doing his amazing talk as well. We just have, it's a jammed-packed weekend of all sorts of fun. And say, Ryan, do you want to go ahead and say?
Well, it's become even bigger. I mean, the Alaskan Killer Bigfoot crew. If you haven't seen that show yet, binge watch a few episodes, get to know. They're all going to be there. Harvest Moon, who was on this, will be there from Expedition Bigfoot. It's just, there are a lot more people that will be involved in it. So it's almost like we need all that time. We almost need another day, right, Daniel? There's just like, there's so many. And you'll get to, and they're all like good people too. So you'll get to interact. Ryan Sprague as well, and Gwen and Brian King Sharp, and you've got a good squad of people who have had a lot of genuine experiences, and some of them have had some really powerful ones relatively recently, which I can't talk about. So I'm just going to do this again. So just know, if you come to the conference, you're going to get to see people talk about something where, as you watch them, watch the hair on their arms stand up, watch their pupils dilate, watch them tell you the truth of what they saw. It's going to be awesome. So if you're on the fence about it or not sure, like, come on down, because it's literally why we all watch these docs and shows, is to meet people where it's fresh and they had something happen to them. So, and we can't wait to share that with you guys.
And to give you a little bit more than that is we, at this conference, there are multiple reasons why we put this on. And this year we've managed to do something that I've tried for the last 3 years to do so. We have brought over 25 American researchers over to the UK, and we've brought over 25 UK researchers to the same event. I think that is fantastic. So if you are coming because you love Bigfoot, you're a Bigfoot enthusiast, or you love the paranormal, you love ghosts, we have a bit of everything at this event. But if you just want to come and learn about nature, come and learn about nature. We are about all of it. And we have so much going into this event. It's just so brilliant. So I have a little bit of an update for everyone, and I'm just going to say we have quite a few people in the chat who will be actually at the conference, but a shout out I'll put to is Steve Ryder. Steve Ryder will be our photographer, and he will be taking photos and capturing the entire event, which is fantastic. And say Paul and Angela, you guys will also be there as well, and they will be covering our main paranormal section. So if any of you guys have anything paranormal that you would like to go and chat about, then those are the guys to go and see. And say it's just we've brought so many different personalities together. I think what better person to actually headline it is Ryan. So it should be a brilliant event. So make sure you guys get down there. Schedules should be released. Go on, man.
And just also, I'm a papa to 4 little wild monkeys. So like for parents too, looking for something to do, there'll be a lot for you there as well. From literally like live ponies to bounce house to like there's a whole outdoor area because I know my kids got to run or they're going to tear something off the wall. So if you're just even looking for something to do for the day that's just a little different, kids love Bigfoot. It's kind of wild, and we're really good with the kiddos and introducing them to it. So please, if you're a parent looking for something to do, come check it out. We would love to have you. Families for sure. Families for sure.
And say we're now kind of running out of our early entry tickets quite quickly, but on the door it'll be £15 entry into the event. But as Ryan just said, outside we've got some amazing stuff as well. I have managed to get some amazing show cars that will be there. And we've got some amazing vendors and that will be on our outside as well. Parking as well. We now have a 500 space car park on the field, which is incredible. So we have access to everyone. So do make sure you get down there in May, because it's going to be a fantastic event with everyone.
And Luke, we'll make sure to we'll get you on FaceTime so you can at least be there via the phone. All right.
Yeah.
You're live on stage, Luke.
Yeah.
You won't be up there long, but you'll be live on stage.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. We've done an hour and 15 minutes. Just wanted to say thank you so much, RPG, for coming in tonight and chatting. Been so interested. Thank you for Daniel for doing that for us.
No worries.
On the Monday Night Paranormal Live. It was so interesting. So a big thank you for everybody on the Paranormal Monday Night Live, to RPG. Thank you. Daniel, good to see you. But I'm still going to let your tyres down. Anyway, next time I see you. I heard what you said about me.
That's funny. That's
it. Okay, only remains me to say thank you so much for tuning in tonight. And again, thanks again, RPG. It's been absolutely brilliant.
Harvest Moon. Thanks so much, Harvest Moon, for tuning in, and we will all see you at the event. Can't wait to sit down. She is going to be telling legends out in the forest.
Nice.
You can't get better. Can't get better than that.
Yeah, can't wait. Looking forward to that.
Angela and Paul, thank you for your wisdom in creating a place for us to come and talk about this. So thank you very much for your expertise and making me feel comfortable and great. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. No, thank you for coming on, spending your time with us. It's been much appreciated. And you, Daniel, we know that you're both very busy. So it's just with a big, warm thank you to everybody watching, Harvest Moon, and everybody watching, and for your comments. It's a big, great thank you, and have a really safe week. And good night from everybody on the Monday Night Paranormal Live. Bye.